Well, Duane, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast. I guess the first question anybody would have is your hockey kind of in the Central America is kind of a different aspect because it's not really thought of as hockey land, and yet it survives, right?
Yeah, we've been obviously up and down the center of the country for a long time, and some of the markets haven't succeeded. And there's a honeymoon period in some instances, which is unfortunate, but a lot of them have been non-traditional hockey markets in that true sense, and it's been neat to bring that product to a lot of places that never had that or had not grown up with that. So for us, that's kind of exciting when you go into these buildings and see the fans experience live hockey for the first time, and then hopefully for many years to come.
What do we get to make hockey not only survive in like the desert but also thrive? Is there something that you have to do to make it cool?
You have to entertain people from the time they show up in the parking lot to the time they leave. That's what we tell. That's what we tell everybody. Whether it's I think, even in traditional hockey markets nowadays, when there's so many other ways for people to spend their dollar, I think you have to entertain people from start to finish. One thing, if you talk about the desert out here, and as we sit in Phoenix, Arizona, is to me, people have to be bred as those hockey fans through a generation. There's a lot of transient people in a lot of these markets, and they're fans of maybe Detroit Red Wings or Minnesota Wild. And growing up as a hockey fan of the Coyotes, as an example here, speaking to the NHL level, it is key for, I think, them, for their growth in the future, is that people are Coyotes fans, not necessarily fans from where their parents are from.
As far as the CHL, you guys merged with the IHL a little bit ago. Did that merger help both leagues kind of survive? I mean, we had some teams drop off, right?
Yeah, obviously in their situation at the time when we did that deal in 2010, they had 4 hockey teams, which eventually turned into 5 with Evansville, and they needed, you really do need 6 teams, if you will, for immigration purposes. And so for us, it wasn't a necessity, it was more of a necessity for them. And we brought those teams in for a couple of years and said, take a look at this. We'll keep you going, we'll give you a place to play. And it worked out for a couple of the markets, but not all of them. So at the end of the day, it was good because we were able to get Quad City and Bloomington under our fold. And we showed them really how we operated a hockey league. And again, a couple teams chose to go in a different direction, and one team simply didn't make it. A team in Kansas City, the Missouri Mavericks, and they had a couple failed teams there before. Whether people owe money, I'm not 100% sure. But our team came in and has done a great job there, a great ownership, great management. They do a fantastic job there. And if there was any animosity there or any feeling of, gee, we had a failed hockey team before, you certainly wouldn't know it. So those are the things you look at and say, you know what, there's things that can turn around. There are markets that are out there that have had hockey before or sports that didn't work out for whatever reason. And our job is to find those and have a hopefully successful one going forward.
Can some teams have poisoned a market not by leaving but by staying and giving away free tickets and doing things which are dangerous, but they drop out the market and then you're left kind of holding the bag, right?
That's a scary, scary thought when free tickets are going out. I know it sounds great, and a lot of us have lived in cities where you could get free tickets to an event. And a lot of people say, well, I've never bought a ticket for whatever team in whatever market, and that's scary because you instantaneously devalue that product. What is the urgency for anybody to go buy a season ticket or go buy a mini planner? Because they know that they'll turn around the corner and there's somebody there they can get free tickets from. So there are some that, yes, and I won't speak to specifics, but there's one in our league way back when where that happened. They gave out free tickets and thought this will cure everything. Well, they haven't had a hockey team for 14 years, and they probably won't have a hockey team for 14 more because of things like that. And yeah, that is, there's no question. I can point to many markets that I know, maybe not necessarily in our league, that have had that happen. And that is one of the worst things that a team can do for them and then for the future.
Okay, so if you're looking at any kind of expansion, do you evaluate those types of things when you're looking at a market and going, this is a market that got poisoned either by people getting ticked because they got everything burned, or somebody just gave away free tickets, or they did the wrong things? Does that not make you go, whoa, we can't make it work here because of the fact, even though it looks like a golden opportunity, because there are just too many issues there?
There certainly, when you do your due diligence on any market, that's part and parcel of that, to say what happened in the past, what are we up against, and how are we going to be perceived in the future. So there's no question that you go through that process and say, what has happened here? The owner that you're looking at, or the owner that's talking to you about that market, has probably already done that himself or herself. And whoever comes in there, as potential president or general manager of the team, also knows what hurdles they're up against. So before you go and say, let's marry this whole situation up, you want to know what was left, who was left holding the bag, where this might go in the future. So there's no question that is is part and parcel of the due diligence process when you're looking at a new market.
How do you evaluate potential owners? I think that a lot of people have the idea that the commissioner just goes, "Oh, you've got some money. Let's come in." And I hope that it's a little further investigation.
Yeah, there's a full background check that goes into this. There's a whole set of financial documents that have to come into us, and there's a fee involved. So anybody just walks in here and says, "I want to have a hockey team." There's a whole process that you go through. We have several people would call, I would say, each week or email us each week inquiring about how they own a hockey team. I don't know if they know in that initial call a lot of times what this really does entail. It's a multi-million-dollar business. At the end of the day, that's obviously, it takes a lot of wherewithal financially and a lot of time. And so there's a whole process that we go through and a full background check and pages and pages of financial information that would come into us. And not everybody qualifies to be a minor pro hockey owner, but there are more and more people coming out now in the last probably 6 months than we've had over probably arguably the last 4 or 5 years. So it's good.
Okay, so but doesn't the business model of sports change compared to the business model anywhere else, where you're not making the profit just off of everything each year? It's more about selling and evaluation later on, or about potential growth. Isn't that something that kind of goes in conflict with people that want their money now? And that's why we have the problems with business owners, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's everybody wants instantaneous success, and in this business it's not necessarily going to happen in that manner. So that's a true statement, and there are a lot of people come to us that are successful business people in other ventures and make a lot of money doing that, and that's where they get their money from. In this, it's a lot different. They want to say it's exactly like owning an oil company or exactly like owning a car dealership, but it simply isn't. And there's a lot of stuff that we try and help them get through, a lot of information that we share with them with our franchise documents, and we try and help them be successful. But it's not instantaneous. It's a lot of work that goes in up front to say, here's my reward later on. And a lot of that reward comes from seeing those people in that community enjoy a sporting event where they're the owner of it. So there's a bunch of different reasons why they own it, but it isn't instantaneous. It's a lot of work, and hopefully for that, down the road, either selling it or owning it for a long time and keeping that community is usually the reward our owners are looking for.
What's the fight that you guys have right now with corporate sponsors since 2008? There's fewer and fewer of them. How do you make sure that they're investing in your hockey league rather than minor league baseball, rather than something else that's in the same market?
It is definitely, that is the largest issue, obviously, and you hit it on the head. From 2008 on, there's a built-in excuse not to have those funds available to teams. So they have to find a way to get a return on investment for these people. So that is our big thing, is what are they actually getting? It's not just, it's easy to say, hey, well, here's number $10,000, we'll stick your name up on the dashboard anymore. That's not what people want. They want traffic in their buildings. They want to make sure that they are getting that return for whatever they're doing. So we have some things that our teams are working on. We have a loyalty rewards program that nobody else has, not even NFL or a National Hockey League, that we're trying to get our teams to push forward, because really what that'll do is create that loyalty to that brand and say to a corporate sponsor, these people are now, you can be involved in giving points, people can buy your product using points tied into other American Airlines and these types of ones. So we have that advantage to be able to tie those people into other major points programs. So there's all these little things you try and get a leg up to say, why here versus giving your money over here? And again, it's a lot of interaction, a lot of customer service with those people, where before it was, hey, we've got money, here's money for a dashboard or a program ad. It's a lot different now. You really have to show them why they need to give you the money, and some of our teams do it very, very well. And but it has been the single biggest hurdle, I guess, or the biggest single setback we've had over the last 4 or 5 years.
Has it been a come to Jesus moment of over-activation for corporate sponsors? You don't see a lot of teams doing it, or leagues. I mean, obviously you guys are kind of at the forefront of trying to do it. I mean, that seems like there's been an issue, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're trying. Like I say, we talk to our teams regularly on conference calls and in meetings and so forth to say, how do we get that leg up on other people? And it's hard. We come up with something that nobody else has done before in terms of pro sports when they're talking about the loyalty program as an example, and to try and get people to buy into that, to understand it, to say that it's a very complicated process because it's real currency, it's real money that's involved. So it's a baby steps in that, but it's something that we feel we can be ahead of the game. We presented it to Hockey Canada as an example. We have a relationship with them. They actually went out and did their own loyalty program after they looked at ours, because I think they see the value in that. So you know, it's a challenge for our teams, and that's a task they have every day to try and generate that revenue and keep those sponsors engaged with their team.
How do you make sure that you're relevant in a market? You know, you could be in a world-class facility or you could not be. How do you make sure that people want to come to not only your venue, but people want to cover it as far as media?
Right. Oh, to me, it's customer service. That's where it all starts from. When somebody comes into your building, just go find your seat and sit down over there. Nobody comes and visits them. To me, that is the biggest thing. The little things that you do, walking around saying hi to people, or asking them what they think, or having town hall meetings, and you have to be at the forefront. And you said some media, it is, you know, in some markets that is the show. In other ones, you're a lot. I mean, in Dallas, there's a lot of other opportunities for media to cover numerous sports. So you have to, the customer service side of it is big when the people are there. You have to get the players in the community, and that's one thing that our level is very good at, is getting the players out there to say, hey, we're here. Going to schools and going to all the events. Our motto is, if there's 5 people congregating somewhere in this town, the team needs to be represented there. So that is the, you know, to remain relevant in some of these markets is a lot easier. But you can't take anybody for granted. You can't take anything for granted, because you're not just going to open up the doors. And again, no matter where it is, maybe except maybe Air Canada Centre in Toronto, you're not just going to open the doors and people are going to walk in. They have to want to come there, and they have to want to come back.
So is there a moving of sales managers trying to get those best practices via employees that have worked in other markets, to where if you're a new owner, you're going to be hiring these people rather than somebody who's sold insurance for the last 5 years? Because you know it's a different game.
There's no question. Like, they look around and say, who are the best people? And nowadays, it's easy to kind of pinpoint those people. You look at the successes, and you kind of know where those, you hear about the good people. Internally, we don't take people from team to team. We don't, you know, unless there's a promotion, we have teams talk and say, listen, I have a job for this person who might be now assistant GM or GM, who's been your best corporate salesperson. But you go around and you look and say, you know what, there may be people out there that can fit into this role very well because they have that sports experience. One other successful practice we've had is hiring people who can sell radio, because those seem to be people who are really selling nothing. So they have this unique knack, it seems like, to sell sports. So we kind of go after people who are successful in that end of their business, because we've seen a track record of those people having success at our level anyway.
We talk about people breaking into sports, like somehow once you break through the wall, that's it. How do people stay in sports? Because we typically have people that think that, you know, you're going to be able to watch games. That's not it at all. You got to sell, right?
Well, I did an interview with somebody else about a year ago about that, and it's a tough job. And breaking in, it's funny. Sometimes it's right place at the right time. There's a lot of people that their dream, they write down, what do you want to be? I want to be in sports, because it seems attractive. It's something that a lot of people can relate to, and they have entire newspaper sections and TV stations, you know, dedicated to this. And so it's fun to be involved in that business. But when you work in a league or a team level, you know, league, you don't have a home game, you don't have any favorite teams, you just have to rule on everything. So it's kind of different for people that come in to work for us that work for a team, because you just kind of oversee everything, and you don't have that inner, you know, ability to cheer for anybody. When you work for a team, those are long days.
We reached a saturation point with too many seats. I mean, do we need to have it to where teams are actually having maybe 20%, 30% less seats in their building? Is that an issue?
You always look at your average attendance. We usually average just over 4,000 pretty much every year routinely. So you look at those markets and you say, what size buildings do you want in that market? We have an arena building company here that we built 13 arenas around the country. We build them 4,800 to 7,000 seats, because for the Central Hockey League, perfect size for us. And you always want to have that last seat in the house sold. I know there's other markets that have 18,000 seat arenas. The urgency is lost to buy a season ticket. It might be great for a National Hockey League team, but it's not good for us. So that we try and find those markets. When we talk to owners about going into city XYZ, it's really looking, saying, okay, there's an 11,000 seat arena, or you might have a 5,000 seat arena. You know what? You probably have a better chance of selling out that 5,000 seat arena on a routinely basis than you do the twice you might get 9,000 in there. So the less seats, in some instances, you'll see that as being better. A lot of the suites are going away too, and the new buildings that are being built, they're not even putting the suites in because they're very, very hard to sell. So you're seeing different ways of building and constructing arenas that are meant for more of the entertaining areas, like party zones and that type of stuff. And sometimes the buildings are curtaining off the upper bowl and saying, this is our building, this is the size that we have, and they want to say that seat in the corner is the last one. Don't worry about what's up there. So yeah, numbers of seats is an issue, and every market builds arenas for different reasons, and for us selfishly, 5,000 to 6,000 seats is what we want.
Everything's going mobile, everything's going towards the internet, whatever. How do we make sure that we're able to sell to people that may not have a landline, may not have a phone number to call?
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, obviously, social media is huge now. It's free, and that's the focus. Last week, we got some information from a common friend of ours that has information related as an expert on Twitter. This is how you can grow your business, because it's hard to pick up the phone and find that person sitting at their kitchen table at 6 o'clock at night that wants to talk to you about buying hockey tickets. So, I mean, it's there's so many distractions out there for everybody. You look at, I have a 5-year-old daughter who, even stuff that she gets, she's looking on her iPad or like on our iPad using that, and they know how to use this technology, but there's so much clutter out there, for lack of a better term. So trying to get to these people is, direct emails isn't even that successful. So using Facebook, using Twitter, and trying to do something unique, these people are attracted to that, saying, oh, what's going on in the Central Hockey League, or what's going on with that particular team. So it is, I can't imagine being the age that my daughter is now growing up with this technology, because there's just too many other things for people to do. So trying to get to them is certainly a challenge, and you still use traditional mailers and all that kind of stuff, but definitely the Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media aspects are what is going to be driving our business in the future.
So have we gotten away from the mentality for individual owners of the come theory, that people are just going to come out if, I open the doors, everyone's just going to, they're just going to roll out. You don't have to advance sell. Have we finally gotten that away from the mentality that people think? That's
not 100% gone. There still are people that say, well, this will just take care of itself. Sometimes that happens right from the start. Sometimes that happens because you're successful and at the beginning of a franchise, and they say, well, this is just going to take care of itself. No. So it's going away. Is it 100% gone in that mentality? No. You just have to make sure, I say, you don't take anybody for granted, because everybody that walks in that door is paying all of our salaries. And it's important that those people enjoy themselves and want to come back and have their kids come back and their friends come back. So it's not gone. I wish it was, but it's there, and sometimes it's human nature. But there's certainly the days of just saying, here's a hockey game going on, particularly in a lot of the markets that we're in that are non-traditional, for lack of a better term. They are not just showing up on a daily basis saying, oh, there's a hockey game going on here, and there's no other stuff going on around that those 3 20-minute periods. There has to be a lot of stuff entertaining everybody to make them want to come back.
So you're also playing mediator when it comes to, when a situation sours between, like, say, the city organization and the owner, to make sure that those things kind of work out. What are some of the things that, maybe you've helped to do to kind of engage to make sure everyone understands where everybody is? Because, I mean, you have a city-owned building and you have a team, and you want to make sure they both stay, right?
Yeah. Well, and we have a president, CEO here, Rick Kozebak, who's been here longer than I, who started the company. He's very good at that as well. So I kind of have he's
take full credit.
No, I will give him credit, because he's the guy that usually figures those types of things out on a more regular basis than I do. But our thing is, people have to communicate with each other, and they have to understand that there are benefits to having a team there. And there's always there's the city, or there's the management company of the building, and there's the owner and the team, and a lot of times that relationship isn't that strong. It's just a natural, rivalry. We had a company here that managed hockey arenas ourselves. After we built them, we managed them. We got out of that business pretty quick, because it's tough, and we saw this is how the team reacts, this is how the building reacts, and both you need a win-win situation. And sometimes it skews one way or the other, and that's where you try and go in and say, here's why you need the team here, and here's what we need to do. Here's what's fair. Here's some samples of what other teams do, because sometimes they don't know. They don't know what goes on in this. Why is it working so well in Independence, Missouri? Well, here's how the relationship between the building and the team is. Maybe we can emulate that. And it doesn't always work out, but you're facilitating, managing, mediating is all deemed necessary to get that communication between those parties. Because if nobody's talking to each other, then everybody assumes somebody else is doing this or somebody else is doing this. And that's the same as talking even within ownership groups, or owner to owner, or GM to GM. It's kind of you're kind of judge, jury, and policeman kind of all rolled into one. Sometimes we say in here.
Is it something to where you have to look over the leasing of buildings when a new owner comes in? Because they're willing to sign anything. Hey, I got a hockey team, and you want to make sure that you're not only getting a good deal, but a fair deal.
Well, and we have that experience. I say Rick's had that experience from our office. We've had that experience in going through leases. We got a lease yesterday from one of our new markets that they had gone through, and we always like to go through that. We're privy to that lease. We're entitled to that per our license agreement with our team. So we get an opportunity to go through those and look and say, okay, good. You might want to look at this. This isn't what other teams do. Because sometimes, again, the person could have owned a lot of other businesses in their lives, but never owned a pro sports franchise. And they have to go and look at a lease and go, oh, you know, is this fair? Is this right? Does this make sense? So that's where we look at it and say, you know what, that seems right. That's right in line with what other people would do. Or, you know, that's way out of line. Or, you know what, the city or the building or the management company is probably right on that one. That's probably a little too lenient. You may want to get that back in another area. Because if the building's not successful or the team's not successful, the partnership sours. And we want to have a hockey team for a long time to come. And the first thing, the most important thing is getting that lease right. And then, you know, obviously getting the right dates in the future and selling. But if the lease isn't right from the start, it makes for a tough go right off day one.
Are there a lot of teams to where the owners are quick to fold or quick to try to sell, like after one bad season, and you kind of got to talk them off the ledge? Is it?
I mean, it's their money, and we have to understand that. And there are times when people say, this is tougher than I thought. Just that people sell for different reasons. They may see, oh, I've already had a pretty good year, and let me get out of this while the going's good, or let's you know, I got to battle through this. So yeah, sometimes you talk to them and say, you know what, this is what you project for year two. This is how typically this has gone for teams. It started off here, it's gone to here, and you give them examples to say this is what it should be like. Obviously, their general manager's got to put together their budget for the following year, the president, and work with the team and say, you know what, this is actually doable. And again, there's different people at different thresholds as to what they would want to lose if they are a losing franchise, or what they expect to make. So it's, yeah, some people are wanting to get out quicker than others, and other people, you know, battle through and own hockey teams for 20 years, despite some years of not doing so well. So they all own hockey teams for different reasons, and I say sometimes they have a different threshold than others.
How do you continue to get mentorship? You're at the top level. How do you make sure that you and the rest of the front office don't kind of stay at a certain level and continue to build up yourself?
Well, I mean, obviously we're minor professional. We have a lot of stuff that we still learn from other people. I mean, we have our Commissioner Emeritus Tom Barry used to be the commissioner of the Central Hockey League before, and the International Hockey League when they were AAA. So we've leaned on him over the years. People that we know around the industry, we talk to them. I mean, I hate throwing names around, but Bill Daly's a guy that we can ask questions to at the National Hockey League, and he responds despite what he deals with on a daily basis. He's helpful in that regard, and our relationship to the NHL officiating department. So those people in the hockey operations and officiating department get all the memos directly from the National Hockey League. I've gone to conferences that Brian Burke has put on in Toronto a couple times. Last year he asked me to be on the panel, or in 2011. So you go and you learn and you listen and you get publications and you try and see what other people do and try and pass that information and knowledge around to the teams. And we learn a lot from our teams. In here we'll learn and say, oh, that's what you guys are doing because you've been in this business for 20 years. And owners, some of the stuff they've done is successful. I love listening to our owners because they have great ideas and they built, say, some of them billion-dollar companies. They probably know a lot of things that I don't that definitely help us. That we can share with other people.
But how do you make sure that while you may be taking information from the NHL and other organizations, that you're still keeping your brand, you're still keeping your CHL hockey, and not just merely emulating them, which can cost you down the road, right? Because people then don't see the comparison.
Right. I mean, obviously, a different level of hockey, different accessibility to the hockey players, different dollars and cents. We always say that we're the same in a lot of respects, with a few less zeros on the end of the numbers. But when we have a relationship with them, we take what we think is good for us, and we take the rule book as an example. There's things in the rule book that we don't agree the National Hockey League would work for us. I mean, we've had a shootout ever since we started, and people said, well, you guys are crazy, shootout, who wants to see that? How many fans are sitting down? And we said, we're sticking to our guns, and we have a 5-round shootout, and always have.
Duane, thank you very much. This has been informative. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Troy. I appreciate it.